In the last section, we took a look at this create bookshop example, and we condensed down the inventory key and value pair to just the word inventory because they were completely identical. In addition, we also subtracted out the function keyword along with its colon as well to indicate that, hey, inventory value right here is a function. I can still call inventory value at any given time. So, like you see down here, I have bookshop.inventory value and bookshop.price for title. So there's no functional difference. It is purely syntactical, solely something to make our code look a little bit nicer. So I want to work on another example here, something that will look a little bit more like reality, something a little bit more practical. So I'm going to delete all the code that we have right now, and I want to put another example up on the screen. I want to imagine for a second that we're going to use jQuery to post some data or make an HTTP request to some remote endpoint. So if you're not familiar with jQuery at all, do not sweat it. You don't need to know jQuery for this. We're just looking at the syntax side. So I'm going to make a function called save file. And the purpose behind save file is to just take some amount of data and make a post request or make an HTTP request. When we're using jQuery, we can make an HTTP request by using the $.ajax method. So again, knowledge of jQuery is not a prerequisite here. We're just looking at the syntax. My arguments to this function will specify the type of request that I might want to make. So I'll have a method of type post because I want to create a record. And then I might have some amount of a URL that I would post it to and some amount of data that I want to post along as well. And so whenever I call save file, I'll pass in a URL that I'm going to post this data to and the actual data that I want to save. So an example of its usage might be something like, I'll create my URL and maybe I'll go to http fileupload.com and data might be color red or any old term that I might decide that I want to use. And then finally, I can call save file with my URL and my data. So this is another location where we can make use of these enhanced object literals. Looking at the code right now, I've got a little bit of confusing syntax up here. To just glance at this line and figure out what's going on, it's a little bit of an eye twister. I've got URL colon URL and data colon data. So this is another location where we can make use of improved object literals. Because my key and value are absolutely identical, I can condense this down to just the word URL, just URL by itself. And I can condense down data to just data by itself like so. And this is now 100% equivalent. So again, you're probably thinking, geez, Steven, this doesn't seem too bad. And my answer to you is, no, it's not. It's not that bad. Just remember the rule is if we have a key and a value that are identical, we condense it down to just a single word and it's 100% identical to how it was before. So the last thing I want to mention on this topic before we do some exercises is that by convention, we're usually going to take any shortened variable. Whenever we have a combination of some long form object syntax here, so like an actual key value pair, and mix that in with this shortened syntax as well, we will usually move these shortened variables, or these shortened key value pairs, over to the left-hand side. So we'll do something like URL and data. And then we'll put the key value pairs at the very far right-hand side of the object. And this would still apply if we wrote out the object in a multi-line form like so. So if we did something like this, we would still want to have URL, data, and then any key value pairs that we have. And so the purpose of this is just to increase legibility, just to make it very clear that, hey, here's a list of all the properties that are being passed into this object, or excuse me, that belong to this object that we are abbreviating as a single term. Okay, so enhanced object literals, let's go into the next section and work on some exercises around them. This is another area where the exercises, do not overthink them. We're just applying the rules here of shortening down key value pairs and shortening up function definitions as well. So take a shot at the exercises and I'll catch you in the next section.